In the quiet suburban sprawl of Brookwood, an old house stood at the end of Elm Street. Its paint had long since peeled away, leaving the structure to be slowly consumed by time. Despite its dilapidated state, it was a house that few ventured near. Its reputation, shrouded in whispered rumors, made it a subject of morbid fascination. Sarah Benson, a historian with a penchant for uncovering the forgotten, had heard of the house's dark past. The story spoke of a sealed room, one that had been bricked up and abandoned, leaving only speculation about what lay behind its walls. Intrigued by the mystery, Sarah decided to investigate. One overcast afternoon, Sarah arrived at the house. The sun was obscured by a heavy blanket of clouds, casting an eerie shadow over the property. As she approached, the house seemed to groan under the weight of its own history. The front door creaked open, revealing an entryway covered in dust and cobwebs. Inside, the house was a time capsule, preserved in a state of perpetual decay. The furniture was draped in white sheets, and the air was thick with the scent of mold and neglect. Sarah moved through the house methodically, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. Her heart raced with both excitement and trepidation. The sealed room was located on the second floor, at the end of a narrow corridor. The door to the room was an old wooden slab, its surface scarred and worn. To Sarah's surprise, the door was not locked. It swung open with a reluctant creak, revealing a room shrouded in darkness. Sarah's flashlight illuminated the room, revealing walls covered in faded wallpaper and a floor littered with dust. The room appeared to be a child's bedroom, complete with a small bed, a rickety wooden rocking horse, and a collection of old toys. Yet, there was something unsettling about the room. The toys seemed almost too pristine, as if they had been carefully maintained despite the room's neglect. As Sarah stepped further inside, she noticed an odd detail: a large, ornate mirror on the wall, draped in a dusty cloth. Curiosity piqued, she pulled the cloth away. The mirror was antique, its frame intricately carved with disturbing figures, twisted faces, and grotesque shapes that seemed to shift in the dim light. The mirror's surface was coated in a thick layer of grime, but as Sarah wiped it clean, she noticed something disturbing. Her reflection seemed distorted, not quite right. Her features appeared twisted and elongated, as though someone, or something, was standing behind her, just out of sight. She turned abruptly, but the room was empty. The air grew colder, and Sarah felt an oppressive weight settle over her. She turned back to the mirror and noticed a message etched into its surface, barely visible beneath the grime. The words were written in a shaky, almost frantic hand. "They watch you through the glass. Beware the eyes that follow." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. The mirror, once a mere curiosity, now seemed like a malevolent entity. She tried to shake off the feeling, but the sense of being watched grew stronger. The room seemed to close in around her, and every shadow seemed to move of its own accord. Suddenly, the air was filled with the sound of a child's laughter, high-pitched and gleeful, yet tinged with an unsettling quality. Sarah's flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows across the room. The rocking horse began to move slowly, its creaking resonating through the room. In a panic, Sarah turned to leave, but the door slammed shut behind her. She tried to open it, but it was locked from the outside. The room was now a prison, and the sense of dread was almost palpable. The laughter grew louder, echoing around her. Sarah's flashlight illuminated the mirror again, and she gasped in horror. Her reflection was no longer her own. Instead, it was a pale, emaciated figure with hollow eyes staring back at her. The reflection began to move independently, its lips forming a chilling smile. Desperate to escape, Sarah turned her attention to the room. Her eyes fell upon a small door hidden behind a tattered curtain. The door was old and rusted, but it seemed to offer a possible escape route. She forced it open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. With no other option, Sarah descended the stairs. The air grew colder with each step, and the darkness seemed to press in on her from all sides. The staircase led to a dimly lit cellar, where the walls were lined with old, dusty furniture and crates. In the center of the room stood a large, ornate chest. The chest was adorned with intricate carvings, and Sarah's heart skipped a beat when she saw the same disturbing faces that had been on the mirror's frame. Trembling, she opened the chest, revealing its contents. Old, tattered clothes, a broken doll with hollow eyes, and a stack of old photographs. The photographs were disturbing. They showed children playing in the very room Sarah had just left. Their faces were joyful, but their eyes were dark and lifeless. In the background of one photograph, Sarah noticed a figure standing in the shadows, an emaciated, ghostly figure that seemed to watch over the children. A sudden, sharp noise from above made Sarah jump. The cellar door slammed shut, and the room was plunged into darkness. Sarah's flashlight flickered one last time before dying completely, leaving her in pitch blackness. The laughter returned, louder and more insistent. Sarah felt a cold, clammy hand grasp her shoulder. She spun around, but there was nothing there. The room seemed to close in on her, the shadows growing longer and more sinister. In the darkness, she heard the sound of footsteps approaching, the sound growing louder and more rhythmic. A low, guttural whisper echoed through the cellar. "You should not have come here. Now, you belong to us." The temperature dropped suddenly, and Sarah's breath became visible in the cold air. The whispering grew louder, and the figures from the photographs seemed to materialize around her, their hollow eyes staring with malevolent intent. In a final, desperate attempt to escape, Sarah raced back up the stairs, but the way was blocked. The room was filled with shadows, and the laughter of the children turned into a haunting wail. The darkness closed in around her, and the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of despair and anger. The last thing Sarah saw before she was engulfed by the darkness was the mirror, now glowing with a sickly light. The faces in the mirror seemed to reach out, their hands stretching through the glass. The next morning, the house on Elm Street stood silent and empty. The sealed room was once again bricked up, and the old mirror was gone. The only signs of Sarah's presence were the faintest traces of her footprints leading to the sealed room, which ended abruptly at the door. The legend of the old house and its sealed room grew in the town. The tale of the haunted mirror and the malevolent force that lurked within the walls became a chilling reminder of the darkness that lay hidden just beneath the surface. As for Sarah, she was never found. Her disappearance became another chapter in the house's grim history, a story told in hushed whispers and fearful glances. The sealed room remained a mystery, its terrifying secret locked away forever.